Okay, in this video, I want to talk about how I talk to God. Now, first of all, if you already talk to God, so you already know, or if you know more than me because you talk to him a lot easier, maybe God's like comes to you in person and he talks to you. So like maybe there's millions of people that if they saw this, they would be saying, well, that guy doesn't really know how to talk to God. Well, it may be true that the way I talk to God is limited, but ultimately I want to share some insights. And the reason behind why I want to share insights about how to talk to God is because if I can help people talk to God, I want to let you know it's not easy, and ultimately it might be impossible to talk to God for most people. And the reasons behind why it's impossible to talk to God for most people is because, because don't know how to do it. Now, if they do know how to do it, then I apologize for my ignorance, because if you're actually one who can talk to God, then better than me, then you already know, and I don't. So I'll relent to the idea that I apologize that maybe I'm not a leader in how to talk to God. I have only done it. I've only been able to do it for a short time, and ultimately I want to share the insights. So most of us can't talk to God, or if God talks to us, He speaks to our feelings, and then we don't hear an audible voice in our head. And okay, so it's hard to be able to actually know what He's telling me. See, I don't really know what He's telling me. I could feel it, and it feels. I only get the feelings that come from whatever He's saying. So, like, if He says something to me, like you're okay and everything's fine, I didn't hear Him say you're okay and everything's fine. I only heard nothing, and I got a feeling that something is saying you're okay and everything's fine, but I didn't hear Him say anything. So ultimately, I have to guess whatever He's saying, and it's troubling because if you guess what He's saying, ultimately, if you're wrong, or if you're interpreting it in many different ways, the divine feminine will get involved, and she'll try to tell you something different from what He tells you. So there's two presences that are going to try and tell you something, and one of them will tell you something different. So ultimately, she might tell you, "Don't talk about this," or she might say, "I don't like you," or it might be him that says it, but you won't know. You'll ultimately get mixed information in your feelings. So the idea is, if He's talking to my feelings, I don't know what He's saying. But if I speak Pope style, he says, if he speaks Pope style, it's direct. So he talks to the Pope directly, and yes, and the president and other important people. So he talks actually to them, and they're going to hear what he's saying. But the divine feminine gets in the way because she has her own idea. So understand that we're not against her, and certainly, right? Yes, not against her, but she is ultimately confusing the communication. And so what happens is that we're all getting, when we talk to God, we're all getting a mixture of what is God talking to us in our feelings, unless we can hear Him audibly in our head. And ultimately, if He's talking to us audibly, we could actually hear His voice talking to us in our head, and then it's easier to know. But even so, sometimes it could be her, and she doesn't agree with everything that He wants or says, which means that she'll be talking to us and contradicting what He says. So what we're getting a lot as people trying to listen to God, we're getting contradictions, and it makes us have to kind of have an attitude and an air which is dismissive of a lot of things, because it is, because we don't really know what He's telling us, but we kind of know we have to make a decision on what we think He's saying, and it's mostly only half correct or half actually real, because the other half comes from a divine feminine presence that's trying to interact. And so she gets in there and she says she may disagree with him, and it makes us have a mixture of confusion. So the idea is that you have to learn to talk to God. Okay. God will show you how to talk to him in certain ways that will reveal an actuality, but it has to be a way to authenticate what he's saying. So it might involve using your hands and typing words, but ultimately, they say that the right hand of God is ultimately able to communicate. So God will be able to, you'll be able to type like what God's telling you on the type, because if God could ultimately get in you and type, your hand will type for you. So you could type words whatever he's saying, he'll be able to type it for you. Now, I don't know, that's a privilege that only some people get, but ultimately it seems that like he doesn't tell us how to get rich. That's not at all what's in the picture. He doesn't tell us secrets of the universe. If he does, they're ultimately things that might involve outer space or our past. Like he'll tell us a lot about history. He talks about, like, most of what he talks about with me, he's told me, is about the conflict in Troy and the Odysseus and the Iliad, how important they are. So like he doesn't tell me how to get rich or how to be famous. He tells me how to understand, and he's not concerned at all with trying to help me get rich. Ultimately, he guides me, and I've only recently been able to actually listen to him, because I haven't had a relationship with God for but a year or less. So I'm brand new at it, because I thought I was following a divine feminine for the longest time, and ultimately I was trying to follow her, and it didn't work out. It didn't work out at all, because it seems that she wants to rule, and as a goddess head, ultimately I messed that up because I was in support of that, and God says that she's not going to be taken over. I'm ruling already. And so like I was kind of like beside myself, and I apologize to God for that, because I didn't know that ultimately God's telling me when he came to me, like, look, I'm God, and men are in charge. The masculine is ruling. And so that's what I want. And ultimately I was like, okay, well, I apologize. I didn't mean to offend you, for sure. Because I was only trying to help, and I was trying to help her. So he says, you did try to help her for 7 years and it didn't work. You failed. And ultimately I was like, you're right. I feel like I completely failed. And so I had to, I couldn't, what could I do? I was like, okay. But I was like, I felt like, I hope I didn't offend you, God. Ultimately he's like, well, you have to be aware. And like what you're doing is trying to help her get back to be her goddess head. And ultimately he told me it's from when I was in Troy and in spirit long ago. I tried to, as a man named Helenus, I tried to help the divine feminine rule again. And God says she's not going to be ruling again. She already rules like she's going to rule. Like she could be queen or she could be whatever she wants, but she's not coming back as a sole ruler, as a goddess head. That's why there's only one God now. It's not including her as a godhead. Men rule this world. And I'm like, wow. So when God told me that men rule this world, it's a man's world, I was like, I don't want to say disappointed, but ultimately I was disappointed, because I wasn't here to help the men rule. I was going to be here to help the women have more rule, it surprised me, because I was like, what? Like, I didn't mean to be doing what I was doing, God. I didn't even know you were alive. I didn't even know that you were real, or maybe I thought you were dead, or you were ignoring me, or you hated me. And God told me, he said that when you pray to me, you run from me because you're afraid of me. And he says, what you've been doing for the last 20 years or all your lifetimes over and over. He said, I've lived many, many times. And he says he's ultimately destroyed me, and that's why I'm afraid of him. And so he told me that my habit that really is a problem is that I pray to him for help, and then he brings help to me, and I'm suspicious of him, and I run from when he comes. I run from him because I'm thinking he's going to come kill me. Yeah, I'm afraid of him. And he says, "You're afraid of me. When I come to help you, you're afraid of me, and you think I'm going to kill you or something." And I'm like, "Wow, okay, I know the presence. I'm scared of it. Yeah, you're afraid of me." And so I didn't know that I was afraid of God, and ultimately I was trying to find him, and I was also scared of him. So when he came to help me, oh my God, I'm running away. I don't know who that is, but I'm afraid of him. Yeah, and he told me, stop it. He says, you're being afraid of me, and you're asking me for help, and then you're being afraid of me. When I come to help you, you're thinking I'm going to kill you. And ultimately, he's like, well, yeah, it could be true that if I'm God, I do kill people. I've done it many times. So you could look at me as a killer. But that's what he's telling me I was doing. So how could I get his help? He was saying, how could I help you if you're going to run from me and look at me as a killer when I come to try to help you? And then you're praying to me after that, begging for help. So I can't help you because you won't let me. And I'm like, are you kidding me? I didn't know that I was, but now I do. So I've got to find a way not to be afraid of God when he comes, to say, are you kidding me? I'm like, you're not kidding me. Whoa. So what am I going to do next time you come to help? Don't be afraid of me and don't run away. And trust me. You don't trust me. You actually think I'm going to kill you or deceive you or lie to you or do something to you because you're afraid. Okay, so I had to practice. When God comes to me, I have to practice like not being scared of him and not running away. And wow, that was pretty heavy duty to think that that's what I did, was run away. And so he said, try this. Be a man and stand up, face me. Okay, well, okay, I'll try it, ultimately. So this is what I did. I had to sit in my own self and be a man. He says, if you're going to be a boy, that's fine. But if you're a boy or a child of God, I like it. And I'm going to be okay with you as a boy, but understand if I use you in many ways, I want a man, not necessarily a boy. So when I turn into a boy, when God talks to me, and that was one of my problems, he told me that. And so understand, if I couldn't have any understanding of this, I wouldn't be able to do it. I wouldn't be able to actually understand how I could be a man, because I'm afraid to be a man, because I'm afraid I'm going to offend them if I turn into a man. So I turn into a boy, and he tells me, you're being a boy, you're being a child of God. That's good, but you're afraid of me. And so when I come to you, you turn to a boy and a child with God, and I'm happy about that. But then you're not a man, you're being a boy. All right, so why am I being a boy and not a man? Because you're afraid of me. And when you're a man, you're standing up to me and maybe facing me like a man. And then that could be in conflict, because maybe we have had conflicts. So he's telling me my spirit might have fought him before into other lifetimes. And ultimately, maybe I was against him, or maybe I was mad at him and didn't even know it. And so he says, you've got to be able to be a man and face me and understand when you do it, you're going to be afraid to do it, because you'll be like, I'm standing up against God and facing him and look him in the eye. Well, yeah, I know, but that's like saying, God, I have to play. Am I going to fight you? Well, you're standing up and facing me, but you're not fighting me. That's what I'm thinking I'm going to do, is face you and fight you. Well, don't fight me. And when you face me and stand up like a man, to understand, you're only trying to be a man. You're pulling your spirit in and being a man. Okay, but that's not offending you? No, it's not. Well, why do I feel like it is? It's an offense itself, because you stood up against me once before and you were facing me in maybe a conflict. Okay, so I actually went against you. Well, probably you must have, because if you're feeling like you're scared of me and you're ultimately a boy, and then I'm telling you need to be a man, and you're feeling like you're offending me when you become a man, it's an offense to God. It's not. So he's telling me, you got to be brave and be strong and face me like a man. Okay, but you're not going to kill me? Well, ultimately, if you're against me and fighting me, I might. But ultimately, I need you to stand up and be a man and face me. Okay, but I feel like can I do it? You can do it. Well, okay, because I'm feeling like I shouldn't do it. Well, yeah, but when you stand up and be a man and face God, it is scary, because if there's something wrong, he's going to show you what it is. And if it's a conflict, you're going to feel it, which means that when God comes to you and you feel like you're facing him in a conflict, he's telling you you're feeling it from a long time ago, from your spirit is scared of me because maybe I destroyed you before. You're back to learn your lessons. Now learn your lesson and don't be afraid of me. And so I'm like, wow, okay. I'm trying not to be afraid of God. And I'm trying to like face him and stand up like a man and not be a boy. Good. We'll try it, and don't be afraid of me. Okay. It's hard because God's presence is mighty. He's the King of all kings. He's the God of Father of gods. He's scary. Like, whoa, man, like you're like, wow, yeah, like what you feel is holy moly, like you're the greatest, like you're dangerous, you're like a murdering machine. Well, that's what they think. Well, that's what they feel too. He's a killer. God is a killer. Understand? But he's not a killer. He's killed a lot of people over and over. So your feeling is very terrified of him. That's it. So I'll see you in the next one. God bless.